Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Raj here, and I have Chase with me here today, as you can see.
Hello.
And today we're going to be, I guess you could say, like debating about the whole Fortnite situation that's been happening between Apple and Google, as well as Epic Games. As you all know, basically, Epic Games has decided to sue Apple and Google for apparently practices that are a bit questionable. Now, that's obviously subjective, so why don't you start, Chase, with your side of the story?
So my side is I'm seeing Epic Games as a bit of a victim here. So what basically Epic Games, what they did was they put a 20% drop on Fortnite V-Bucks, for all platforms, but on Apple Games or on the App Store, on the iOS version, they made it so that um, they made it so you could choose between like App Store payments or a process straight from Fortnite, and Apple kind of threw their bucket, or not the bucket, through their like they lost it basically and said, okay, here's the thing: if you won't listen to our rules, which I think are kind of dumb, that if Fortnite is going to do something, they have to listen to one company's rules. Like, I just find that a little bit dumb. But um, I just I just don't understand why Epic has to, in order to do something, has to have the permission of one company.
I mean,
Uh,
technically, it's not one company; it's also Google as well that did the same thing.
Yeah, I guess that is true, but then they're losing out on 30% of their cut, and it doesn't make sense that they should lose out on 30%. If this isn't making any sense, it's because I have a very hard time explaining things. So sorry about that. But anyway, so since Google and Apple are going through these rules, and since Fortnite decided to have a sale, which is not a sale anymore, it's a permanent thing. They're dropping all their prices by 20%. So, um, that basically basically made Apple like throw out the roof, and it was just like, excuse me, you can't do that, because it doesn't adhere to our rules. And they basically, because of that, got rid of Fortnite on the App Store. And Google did the same, but not as harsh, I don't think. Um, but I feel like Apple overreacted um, because Epic was feeling cheated. So
All right, so now with my side of the story. So the way I look at it is that the only real reason why, basically, Fortnite was thrown out of both the App Store and the Google Play Store was because, basically, yes, as Chase iterated, they were not following the rules. And basically, to that I say, I mean, if you're gonna have your app like sort of on like one of their app stores, then I mean, you kind of have to follow the rules if that makes sense. Now, obviously, now they don't see it as fair, which okay, that's fine, but I mean, there is also something called terms and conditions, and if you read through those, then you
nobody
can
does, though.
yeah,
Like,
but I mean that's still there for a reason. So I mean you can clearly see that that's going to be in both Google's and Apple's terms and conditions that they can and that they will take 30% of your app's like financial revenue. Now, not saying that 30% is fair or anything. Now maybe that number alone might need to change, but I mean that's the thing though is that I feel like if Fortnite wanted to discount their prices, which is perfectly fine, I mean, I have nothing against that. But if they wanted to discount their prices, I feel like they should have at least given Apple and Google like a somewhat of a heads up. That way, then they could adjust the revenue properly instead of having to go through this, whole drama fest. But basically, the issue mainly is that Fortnite is just, kind of like, at least with their current ad, I'm sure you guys have seen it. If not, I'll link it in the description below. But honestly, I'm not a super huge fan of it because they basically like blatantly ripped off Apple's 1984 Macintosh ad,
yeah,
and that's, I mean, That to me is what set off the bomb, honestly.
All right. Well, I have something to say about the ad. So yesterday, you explained to me how, like Apple uploaded that ad in 1984 to like separate themselves from another computer company. I don't remember what it was,
From
but
IBM.
yeah. And they were saying, hey, you know what? We don't want to abide to your rules anymore because your rules kind of
Well,
suck.
technically, it wasn't like abiding by the rules. It was the future of personal computers at stake. And if IBM won that war, because this is completely different, basically, if IBM won the
Right?
computer arms race, then today would be very different for us, and we might not even have personal computers. In fact, personal computers might be just things that are used in scientific labs, like they were in the IBM era. And Apple was the shining light that basically destroyed that sort of like status quo on personal computers.
All right. Well, maybe Epic is trying to do the same thing, but instead of like make all the computers and stuff like personal and stuff, they want to change the future of cross-platform gaming and
Which is fair,
say,
yes, but I mean, at the same time, though, I mean, it's kind of like two whole different stories. Because I mean, if you look at technology as a whole, the only reason we actually have like, and this goes for even Android and Windows users too, the only reason we have all of these platforms that we do today is because of Apple. If Apple never existed and never stood up to IBM like this, then we might as well have not even had any personal computers. In fact, IBM would have just said, you know what, we're going to just destroy Apple and we're going to forget about the personal PC and, you know, just like the overall like computer market. We're just going to completely forget about it and we're going to move on to something else. Like that's how IBM was. They were super corporate and they were just, you know, not really just a great company. They didn't have the fundamentals that Apple does today. Apple is all about its users. They care about their users.
and
Whereas
maybe that
with
was Fortnite.
well, I mean, yes, so does Fortnite, but I mean, here's the thing though, is that I mean, if you look at the two stories like basically side by side, I mean, they are in a sense kind of different because like the whole
Yes, but
personal computer scape is a lot larger than just video games.
they have very noticeable similarities. A company is trying to bend a few rules so that everybody can be happy, but but the company, uh, but the leading company that the rules are being bent to didn't like it, and so the uh, the company that bent the rules is trying to change the rules um, and make it fair for everybody. And when the leading company didn't, uh, if that doesn't make much sense, I'd say like Apple is currently in their ad. Apple is currently representing IBM, and Fortnite is currently representing Apple.
Well, I mean, in the past because IBM was pretty
Yeah,
much defeated.
yeah, it could be the same for Epic Games because Epic Games is trying to do the same thing that Apple did so long ago and make it a much better thing for everybody that's playing Fortnite or any Epic Games uh, game at all.
Well, really, I mean, this is more of a scope though on actually Fortnite because I mean, really, Fortnite was the only app that was actually like sort of the main cause of this, you know, like this whole debate sort of thing. But basically, though, in summary, though, I mean, I feel like just honestly, like that these stories, I mean, sure they have some similarities, but if you really look at it, I mean, Apple really fought for its users, like in terms of
And
computers.
Fortnite is trying to fight for their users as well. Like they know that 2/3 of the population that plays Fortnite, like not pop, like 2/3 of the people that play Fortnite, not the population. The 2/3 of the people that play Fortnite, like you said, are on iOS. They're trying to
Well, no,
save those.
it's not 2/3. I basically said that it was like there was like basically a ton of users on iOS. There was
It's like
like billions
yeah,
of iOS devices. But I mean, that's the thing though, is that I mean, overall, I would say yes, Fortnite has had a lot of players from different platforms. But I mean, if you just look at the whole scope of things, I mean, honestly, like basically, yes, in doing this, Apple and Google kind of did hurt Epic Games' chance of basically gaining, obviously, more users. So, I mean, I think honestly what needs to happen at this point is that there needs to be some sort of agreement between all three companies.
Yeah,
In
and
terms
Epic.
of how revenue works, and now, like, really, because see, that's like what how the problem sort of stemmed is that there was a disagreement in revenue on how much the companies should take. So
Yeah, and Epic
they
Games wants them to only take 10%.
Well, yes, but see, I feel like though honestly that if like say Apple did bend to those rules, I mean then they'd have to adjust it for their whole sort of app store. Same thing with Google as well, because Google also has the same policies as Apple does for its app store. And the only real reason why they have these in place is because they need some sort of revenue coming in from those apps in order to still fund, like, basically hosting those apps on their servers.
I know, but 30%, that's a lot. That's a lot of
Well,
revenue
I
that's
mean, if
going.
you compare it historically, I mean, now this is going to be more specifically for Apple at least. If you look at how much Apple has taken, like, at least from the years past, Apple has taken as much as 60 to 50%, which, yes, is quite a lot of the revenue. But see, that was in the past, and that was when apps were not as large as they are today. Now, Apple, over time, has gone down, actually, and Tim Cook has said this himself in that, like, sort of grilling of tech CEOs at the whole thing a few weeks ago with government officials, Tim Cook himself has said that they have come down actually in basically how much they take from apps, and that they're still willing to come down as well. So
Well, if they're
maybe an
willing,
agreement
why
is on
is
the
there
horizon.
with Epic Games?
Yeah, so I mean, maybe an agreement is on the horizon, and we'll just have to see how it plays out. But I mean, the point is, though, is that I mean, really, honestly, there was like not really necessarily like sort of the need to have Epic Games like sort of just blow this out of proportion, and maybe just talked with Apple and like said, you know what, can we have it to where we can do this? And I'm sure Apple would have said yes.
But here's the thing: they shouldn't have to ask one platform to do something on a cross-platform.
But see, it's not one platform. It's also the same thing with Google too. They could have sat down
Yeah,
with both Apple
two
and Google and asked, "Can we do
platforms
this?"
out of like 20 different things. Well, maybe not 20, but there are so many different platforms that you can download Fortnite on, and they shouldn't
Yes,
just
but
have to ask
if you
these
think
two.
about it too, I mean, even like companies like Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, they all also actually take cuts out of Fortnite.
Yeah,
They also take percentages
I
of
know,
revenue.
but I understand that because in order to have stuff on the platform, they have to have.
Yeah, and it's also a 30% cut, I bet, as well. Because I'm pretty sure across all of these tech companies, from what I've researched at least, yeah, they do in fact take 30% from basically all platforms. So, really, honestly, I mean, it's sort of like just this universal thing that, like, really, Epic Games should have just sat down with all of these companies that host their game and said, you know what, can we have this lowered somehow? And I'm sure those companies would have been willing to compromise, at least like for like that specific deal.
Mm,
I'm sure they would have been willing to compromise if they just simply sat down with them and didn't like, just like fire back.
I mean, I'm sure they would have, but there's always alternatives that they don't want to cut down because.
Yes, but I mean that doesn't also mean that like one game developer goes all radical and they just blatantly attack these companies, because I mean technically it's not exactly their fault. I mean, they could have just sat down with them peacefully and said, "You know what? Can we have it this way where we can host this deal on your guys' platform, and can you guys, like try and agree with us on it?" And I'm sure that they would have definitely said yes, because most of these companies, in fact, I mean, they want the best for their users as well. So maybe, honestly, they could have just done that instead of starting this whole drama fest. I mean, that would have been an easy solution that would have not had any, like, sort of fire from either sides. That would have just diffused the whole situation.
That is true, but I'm really having a hard time combating this. This is.
I mean, I think honestly, if I were looking at the whole scope of things, and I'm sure you'd agree with this too, actually, I mean, I'm sure that there's still a chance that they can still sit down and just get rid of this lawsuit and say, Like, basically, you know what, this was wrong from both sides, and I say basically that they can just sit down, they can agree to new terms, and that Fortnite can return on both Android and on iOS.
Okay, well, I do hope that happens as well because our channel, well, our other channel,
Yeah, the BR
our
Gamers. If you guys haven't
yeah,
checked this out, please be sure to go do that. I'll also leave a link to that
please
channel.
do check us. We are in desperate need of subscribers, but
Yeah.
but seriously, we like I understand that they could have just sat down and done that, but I think, but like everybody knows, like as a human, everybody knows that the first thing you do isn't always like asking permission. Like if something's been going on for a while, like and
Yes,
you're
but
not.
I mean, see that's kind of why though I'd say like human nature needs to change because I mean, if you look at the whole scope of human nature as well, now that's another whole debacle. But honestly, I mean, just like the sort of like scope of it, honestly, I mean, I feel like it's not more like actually asking for permission. It's just more like getting to a deal because like getting to a deal is a lot better than just constantly attacking each other because if you just constantly attack each other, like I mean, you're not going to get anywhere, honestly. It's just going to stay in one spot and it's just not going to move forward.
But still, like I'm losing my train of thought. And
Yeah.
this isn't you winning the argument. I'm just
Right, yeah, I mean, I'm just, like, more honestly now, instead of, like, arguing my point, I'm just trying to come up with, like, neutral solutions to
yeah,
this
like
whole problem.
that is true. It could work by doing that, but I mean, there's not a very high chance that they're going to do. I don't know statistics.
Yeah, see, the way I see this playing out, unfortunately, is that Epic Games is still going to go forward with their lawsuit against both Google and Apple, and unfortunately, they're going to like be honestly defeated because, and only say that because, I mean, if you look at their lawyers, I mean, we've not really seen like Epic Games lawyers in action, so I mean, we can safely assume that, because I mean, if you look at just the lawyers alone, Apple has had to deal with so many cases so far of lawsuits, which some have been right, some have been wrong in terms of how they work ethically. But that's also, again, another whole debacle. But the thing, though, is that if you look at those past cases Apple has had to deal with historically, Apple has won most of those cases. And I say most because, like, that other 5% of them, that has been like for like patent infringements and stuff like that. Now that obviously in terms of what Apple did was somewhat wrong, and they paid their fines for it. So basically, that always happens to obviously big companies. They have to like basically pay for like some patent infringements that they unfortunately did not mean to do. In which case, Apple has had to pay for a lot of those. Google has had to pay for a lot of those. Microsoft has had to pay for a lot of those. I mean, it's a lot of these big companies that have had those kind of lawsuits that have paid on for patent infringements. But basically, though, the thing really about this is that I mean, my point essentially is that we can still solve this. I mean, it's not like it can't be solved out of court. But if Epic Games wants to take this to court, then I mean, I feel like then really it's not going to benefit anybody besides Apple and Google because if you look at it this way, they can still come to a negotiating table with those companies, and I'm sure they'll be willing to listen. That basically they can come to the negotiating table and they can negotiate a new deal to put those games back on the stores and to make revenue fair. So they can still negotiate. I mean, that's definitely not out of the question. But the matter is on if Epic Games will be willing to or not.
I mean, I'm sure they'll be willing to eventually, but right now they're
just attacking, basically.
Yeah, they're just infuriated that 30% of what they're making is being sent to Apple and
as well as Google and Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo.
Well, for them, I don't know 100%.
It is 30% across the board. It is 30%.
It's 30% across the board. Okay.
Yes.
That's a little confusing.
And it's for their respective platforms too. If you really look at the scope of it.
I can understand the switch as to why, and I can understand Sony and Nintendo why they're accepted with 30%. Is because Nintendo is a relatively new system, um and they need all the help they can get. Even though well, to Fortnite, it's a relatively new platform, and Sony is pouring out money to do custom deals like skins and gliders and wraps and stuff like that.
Well,
Like
that is all true. However, I mean, if you also look at Sony too, they're also one of those big corporations, and technically, I mean, the whole sort of aim of this is that Epic is just trying to get money out of both Apple and Google, which historically has been like in the past, like with also other lawsuits from other people as well, like just trying to get money out of these big corporations. Which again, I'm not against, but if
well,
you're
I mean, Epic for Sony, I wasn't quite finished with that, but with Sony, they're basically like paying, they're basically paying it back with that 30%, saying, "Hey, you allowed us to make a skin for you, so we're going to pay you for that."
Well,
Like
see that's the thing though, is that technically, I mean, the person getting paid out of all of this is Sony because they're taking that 30%. That's the
yeah,
same
that
case with
is
Apple and Google as well, is that while Fortnite was still on their app stores, they were also getting charged 30%. And if you also remember too, I
but
mean,
still, they don't have any special deals
well,
with
that is true. However, if you look at just the whole scope of their user base, I mean, Apple and Google, for the most part, have actually been responsible for putting most of their users like on Fortnite because those are the most popular platforms out there, both Google and Apple, with their Android and iOS platforms. I mean, it's been the most popular by far. So that's the only reason why Epic Games has had so many users, basically, and even new ones come to their like basically stores to download Fortnite and play it basically.
yeah. Well, I can see how that would work.
Yeah, so I mean, technically, in a sense, they do kind of owe them something because I mean, after all, they are responsible for getting them to the level that they're at today.
Yeah. I mean, actually, if you think about it, the 30% that's going to Apple, that's a lot more because
Well,
because like
how is that a lot more necessarily if it's the
well, I
same
mean,
thing for Google too?
I know it's the same thing for Google, but there's a lot more users on iOS than there are on Android, which means
Actually, that's the opposite because if you look at how many phones there are in the world, there are historically more Android phones out there than iPhones.
a lot of those are Samsung, right?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different Android companies like that, like use Android. So if you look at just the whole scope of like the whole world, I mean, Android phones outnumber iPhones 10 to 1.
Oh wow,
Yeah, it's crazy. You'd be surprised, honestly, at how much
yeah.
they outnumber them. So that's mainly why Google, I would say, has like the most in terms of like giving to Epic Games in terms of users. Whereas Apple, I mean, yes, they have a lot still as well, but there's still again just that whole disparity between how many iPhones are out there and how many Android phones are out there. So
Oh, I think I've got it. I think I've got it. I think the reason they're going after Apple and Google specifically is because they have a bigger
user
they have
base and they're trying to essentially take
user.
more money from those corporations. But I mean, see, I feel like it should be this universal deal between all of these companies and it should not be like oh, like we should just take 15% from Apple and Google and then take like 30% from like Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft. I feel like it should be a set number across all of them.
Nintendo, but Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft, they have reasons. 30% to a huge
Well, yes, but
huge
if you just look at
Microsoft.
the raw size of both company, or like with all of these companies, then they're basically all still big corporations. And I'm surprised, honestly, that Epic Games is only specifically targeting Apple and Google when Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, all three of them are pretty big and well-known corporations.
Yeah, I know, but here's the thing with Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, they all have reasons to be like being paid
Right,
more.
which is their like deals with them. Yes, I mean that's understandable. But I mean, again, if you look at it the same way, I mean, Apple and Google, they might have not done deals with them necessarily, but I mean, they still are responsible again for their user bases.
Yeah, but
So
you're not letting
technically, it's kind of even.
you're not letting me finish though. Like,
Okay, I'm
for,
sorry. Go on.
yeah, so for Nintendo, this special thing is their new platform for Fortnite, and there's not as many people there, so they're trying to pay them as much as possible to help Nintendo out a little bit. And maybe eventually they'll get a custom skin. We haven't seen any news on that yet, but for Sony, Sony is allowing them to have like um, platform specific outfits and cosmetics, like the skins that they keep getting, and it's the same for Samsung as well. I'm surprised they're which is probably the reason why they're not going after Samsung right now, and specifically Google. But anyway, for Microsoft, they probably have they have the most diverse form of platforms. They have PC, they have Xbox, all different Xbox things. They have all different like Microsoft computers that they make. They probably have the most diverse, and they're spreading it out by going just to like the Microsoft thing and all that stuff that's going on with that. So for basically too long to read or listen, whatever. My Nintendo is new, and so
And I'm actually sorry to cut you short, but my mom is actually calling me, so I have to cut the video temporarily. So
all right.
I'll be right back, guys. Hey guys, we're back. Sorry about that interruption.
Yeah.
I had to go take a shower apparently, so because I have to get ready for work soon. And oops, I forgot to get rid of my face cam on here. There we go. Yeah. So, anyways, though, continuing with the debate, Chase, it was your turn to speak, so I'll just
Yeah.
let you continue.
All right. Let's see. Where did I go? Oh yeah. The reasons Epic is not going after Nintendo, Microsoft, or Sony. So the reason they're not going after Nintendo is basically Nintendo is newer is a new platform for Fortnite, so they're trying to get in as much as they can. Sony has a bunch of skins that they paid Epic to make, and this is kind of just Epic like paying them back with their 30%. And then for Microsoft, it's like with their computers and their consoles, like it's a bunch of different platforms that Epic has Fortnite on. So it's a little more diverse and it's a little bit harder to do that. So they're not going after them because it's a little bit more hard work, which covers the 30%.
So basically, I think you did like sort of get one thing wrong in there, which I will say, and that's because you were basically talking about Sony and their cut. So basically, so in terms of the whole like the way the payment thing works is that so actually the way it works is that basically in order for those skins to be made, Sony had to essentially pay Epic to that whole deal or like whatever it was, they had to pay basically for that. So basically, I mean, it's not really, I guess you could say, like a fair exchange because it's just one company in that sense getting paid, and it's not really like them getting paid back and forth, if that makes any sense. Because, like, for that whole deal to work out, like that's like, just a whole separate deal, like from basically what their actual like stake in that sort of is like in terms of that cut. Like so basically the way it works is like even for all of these companies is that they for that 30% it's kind of like they basically have a quote unquote stake in Fortnite. So basically like for Apple's case they had a 30% stake in all of Fortnite's like basically things like let's say somebody purchased V-Bucks for example, or like just something that's paid on Fortnite, then 30% of that money that is paid goes like to Apple, but then Fortnite gets to keep the other 70%. Whereas like that's the same thing on like Android. So Android in terms of Google's rules, it's the same as Apple's in this case. And now, obviously, they're not like one for one for their policies all the time for Apple and Google. They have different rules and such. But basically, though, in terms of this specific case with Fortnite, it's the exact same. So basically, in that case, it works the same way on Android. If, say, somebody wanted to purchase V-Bucks, then 30% of that goes to Google, whereas Fortnite gets to keep the other 70% of that profit. Then basically, and this is from person to person, so imagine still how much Epic is still making. They're only losing out on 30% from just these two companies alone for each person. So that's, if you really add it up, it's not as much as 70%. So really, Epic is still making majority of that money. And if you also look at even, like, for example, again, Microsoft, for their Xbox and for their basically PC, they also charge 30% for both of those platforms, so in total 60%, let's say, for just Microsoft. Because there's two different platforms, of course, that it's being hosted on, but it's still under just Microsoft. So Microsoft is charging 60% of the total revenue. So Epic only gets to keep, out of both of those, they only get to keep 40%. But if you look at them from an individual case basis, which is what they do, obviously, then they still get to keep 70%. And then same thing with Sony. They also charge only 30% to host Fortnite on their store, on the PlayStation Store. So then basically they also charge 30%, which in that case, again, if somebody is buying V-Bucks, then they get to keep that other 70%. And that's Epic, of course, that gets to keep that. So really, if you look at just how much money Epic is making, then realistically, I mean, they're still making enough money to survive. I mean, it's not like they're basically like losing out on a ton of money. I mean, maybe they're losing out on like what, 300 million, which to them is not that much, honestly. I mean, that's not that much to ask for.
300 million still sounds like a lot, though.
Well, I mean, yes, to like us, obviously, it will be a lot. But I mean, if you look at it from a company's perspective, I mean, 300 million for a very, very, very popular game like that, I mean, it's not that much to like sacrifice in terms of profits. So really, because if you think about it, like let's say hypothetically, if all of these companies let Epic have just their full profits, then that would cause many issues for many reasons. Because like then how will these companies, like let's say hypothetically, if like for example Nintendo, let's say if they run out of funding, what happens then to their game? Nintendo can no longer host it, and it's the same thing with these other companies too. Now this is hypothetical. I'm not saying that they're obviously going to run out of funding because they have so many different things that helps them obviously stay alive. But like let's say, like for example, Sony. Let's say, what if the PS5 is a complete flop? What if they don't sell any games? What if like they go downhill? Then how is that going to work? Basically, where Fortnite gets all of their profit and Sony doesn't make anything. You see what I mean there?
Mm-hmm.
So technically, all these companies, including Apple, they have to take some sort of commission. Now, that 30% number, it's debatable, but they have to take something. I mean, they can't just be left with nothing, if you see what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I think honestly, maybe the thing that needs to change is the whole 30% thing, and it's not just for Apple. I mean, it's for everybody. It's not just an Apple or a Google problem. It's basically for all of these tech companies that host Fortnite on their platforms, of course.
Mm. All right. Well, I'm starting to lose my train of thought. I'm having a hard time arguing with you.
Yeah.
I don't want to argue with you anymore, so I say we cut it off here.
Yeah, I think this is honestly a great place to end the debate. So if you guys enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like. And just so you guys know, Chase and I, we're not at each other's throats or anything. We're still good friends and all of that.
We're not like against each other. We're just trying to give
you guys two different points of view so that you guys can just basically come up with whatever you want to believe and that sort of stuff. And I mean, honestly, like, don't let our opinions influence you. Necessarily. So just basically, like, look at it from both sides, basically, is what we're trying to say.
Yeah, that's what this video is about, is we're trying to hear both sides of it.
Yeah, we're trying to basically allow both sides to have their fair share.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that is the end of this video. Again, if you guys liked it, please be sure to leave a like. Also, comment and subscribe if you're brand new to the channel. And of course, also subscribe to the BR Gamers as well. We just posted a similar video to this one on that channel, if you want to go
Yeah.
check that
Well,
out.
it wasn't really similar. It was just
Right.
a video on that one, but
Right, about like that channel specifically, I guess you could say. But I mean, it's just still me and Chase talking. So again, if you want to go check it out, just be sure to go to the description, and the link will be there to go check out our channel. And we will be posting more on that channel very soon. We just have to, of course, coordinate that. So we will be posting there really soon, and I'll obviously be posting a lot more on here too. But the thing is, though, also I also wanted to announce one other thing for my channel specifically, and this is something that has been coming for a while now, and I'm sure you guys know this. But after my next video, I'm probably going to be taking a few weeks off because I still have not mentally recovered from last school year, and I honestly need some time. So it'll be a little bit before I post something else on this channel specifically, but you'll still see me on the BR Gamers and stuff like that. I'll still be making videos with Chase. But, I mean, yeah, I just need some time off, honestly. So I'll keep you guys in tune with that and let you guys know when I'll be off of my vacation from this channel. So, yeah, I mean, I'll catch you guys next time.
all right, see ya.